2021 hasn't been packed full of excellent releases in its first 6 months, the way a few other years have been in the recent past, and given the production and development challenges studios around the world have been facing due to the pandemic, that's obviously understandable. Even so, there have been quite a few great games. Those that have stood out and made strong impressions and might just be counted amongst the best this year had to offer another 6 months from now. Now that we are at the halfway point of 2021, here we're going to take a look at the 15 best games we've played in its first half. Returnal. Housemarque stepped out of their comfort zone with Returnal, making a full-blown 3D AAA game with an ambitious structure and goals, and infusing it with the sort of frantic bullet hell action the studio's known for. The results were spectacular. Returnal's unforgiving nature means that the game might not be for everyone out there, but Housemarque's roguelike shooter is incredible at what it does. From stunning visuals to genius storytelling to excellent atmosphere to, of course, the breathtaking combat. Oddworld Soulstorm. Oddworld Inhabitants' long-delayed Oddworld Soulstorm was out for the PS4, PS5, and PC via the Epic Games Store earlier this year. Taking place directly after Oddworld New and Tasty, the story sees Abe saving his fellow Mudokons and leading them against the Magog cartel. As a reimagining of Oddworld Abe's Exodus, Oddworld Soulstorm offers a 2.9D platforming on a bigger scale than previous titles. Players can scavenge materials and use them to craft various weapons and items to gain them an advantage. The Korma score system also returns, encouraging one to save as many Mudokons as possible for the best ending. It Takes Two. Joseph Fares and his team at Hazelight Studios delivered something interesting with A Way Out, but it's with It Takes Two that they've showcased the full potential of the kind of co-op gameplay and storytelling they believe in so much. It Takes Two is a consistently delightful and enjoyable game, with a level of variety and creativity exhibited through the runtime that is hard to come by. The game constantly surprises players with excellent new sections and mechanics, executing them in endlessly creative ways to deliver a barrage of memorable moments. Persona 5 Strikers. We've seen a lot of franchises crossing over with Omega Force's action mechanics, but Persona 5 Strikers might just be the best of the lot. And that's because it feels so much like a Persona game in spite of having Warriors-inspired combat. The story feels like it has an appropriate weight and essentially follows up to Persona 5. The combat is excellent, and both in and out of combat, Persona 5 Strikers retains just enough elements from P5 to make it feel like an actual Persona game. For fans of the series, this one is nearly unmissable. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. 2009 was the last time we saw a full new Ratchet & Clank game, and after over a decade of shorter games and experimental games and a remake, Insomniac's series finally got its due this year, and Rift Apart is a very fitting comeback for the series. The frantic combat and selection of ridiculous weapons and gadgets that the series is so well known for are at the heart of Rift Apart once again. But it surrounds that strong core with a charming story, lovable characters, and probably the best visuals we've ever seen in a console game. Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade could have gotten away with just being an enhanced re-release of the original game for the PS5, but it's much, much more than that. Not only does the game look and run better, Episode Intermission adds a whole new 4 to 6 hour chunk of new content to the game, and thanks to Yuffie's excellent characterization and more of the exciting combat that stood out so well in the base game, Intergrade feels like an excellent stopgap until Square Enix delivers the next game in the FF7 Remake Saga. Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Oh, fans have been demanding a remastered trilogy of Mass Effect for years, and BioWare and EA finally gave in this year. And what a way to do it, too. Mass Effect Legendary Edition is the best way to experience one of gaming's best trilogies of all time. Not only does it bring together nearly all content from the original trilogies into a single cohesive package, it also updates Mass Effect 1 in noticeable ways, both in terms of gameplay and how it looks, while also polishing up Mass Effect 2 and 3 a little bit more. Legendary Edition isn't a new game, of course, but for Mass Effect fans, it is a wonderful gift. Wise 9 Monstrum Nox. Nyan Falcom's Wise games don't enjoy the sort of recognition that bigger Japanese RPGs franchises do. But as anyone who's played the game will tell you, this series deserves to be mentioned in the same breath. Wise 9 in particular exhibits the franchise's strengths in some excellent ways. It's got great combat, it's interesting and diverse cast of characters, among other things, and definitely stands as one of the best games we've played in 2021 so far. Guilty Gear Strive. Arc System Works are the masters of the fighting genre, giving the studio's knack for putting out beautiful, dense, and complex fighters at an alarming rate. There was never any doubt that Guilty Gear Strive would be yet another great game, which is exactly what it turned out to be. It looks gorgeous, has a diverse cast of characters that are all a joy to play as, tons of mechanical depth, and implements a number of new mechanics in ingenious ways. It's definitely one of the best fighters on the market right now. Outriders. Outriders had a lot of skeptics in the lead up to its launch. There's no shortage of looter shooters on the market, after all, but People Can Fly's shooter RPG has put its own twist on things and has been met with appropriately solid reception. The combat in Outriders feels constantly fast and kinetic, and mixing traditional cover shooting with a reliance on abilities while engaging with a full-fledged gear system makes for a very addictive loop. Sure, it's not without its flaws, but Outriders is at least very successful at what it sets out to do. Monster Hunter Rise. When it comes to loot-driven games, there aren't many that do things as well as Monster Hunter does on a regular basis. Monster Hunter Rise would have deserved a place on this list even if it was just more of the same, but this time on the Switch. But it's so much more than that, with additions like the Palamute and the Wirebug and new mechanics like Silkbind attacks and the Wyvern riding. Rise enhances and enriches the already addictive core loop of Monster Hunter in wonderful ways. Disco Elysium: The Final Cut. Disco Elysium was one of the best games of 2019, so it makes sense that an expanded version of the game is going to be one of 2021's best as well. Disco Elysium: The Final Cut brings the excellent RPG to the console space, which is significant enough in and of itself, but with the addition of new quests and voice acting for every single line of dialogue in the game, among other things, it also elevates an already seminal RPG to altogether new heights. If you haven't played this one before, do yourself a favor and dive into The Final Cut. Little Nightmares 2. Tarsier Studios' Little Nightmares is not an easy game to follow, given how much of an impact it made on players. Little Nightmares 2 decided to go bigger, but it did so with restraint and in a manner that not only retained the best things about its predecessor, but even enhanced them. Little Nightmares 2 is terrifying and atmospheric in all the ways that you'd expect, but it tells a fascinating and mind-bending story that keeps you on the edge right until the end, and it is full of memorable moments of horror and panic that any fan of the genre will cherish. Hitman 3. IO Interactive struck gold when they soft rebooted Hitman in 2016. The formula and gameplay style they established was improved upon even further with its sequel, and in Hitman 3, it was taken to altogether new heights. Serving as the conclusion to the World of Assassination trilogy, Hitman 3 is a culmination of everything the series has excelled at in the past, with ridiculously dense and ingeniously designed levels, a baffling level of choice and freedom for players, and excellent system stealth mechanics. Resident Evil Village. Resident Evil has been on an absolute roll since 2017, and 2021 saw the series recording yet another massive win. Combining the first-person perspective of Resident Evil 7 with action elements and other mechanics and ideas from Resident Evil 4, Village has delivered one of the series' freshest and most unique outings to date. This carnival of horrors is full of variety, thrilling combat, excellent level design, memorable scares, and the kind of forward momentum for the series' overarching narrative that hasn't been seen in a Resident Evil game in a long, long time. As a culmination of everything the series has been good at in the past, Resident Evil Village feels like a celebration of Capcom's survival horror franchise. Super Mario 3D World: Bowser's Fury. Super Mario 3D World was always secretly one of the best Mario games of all time, and with its Switch release, it proved that to the world once again. Like so many other Wii U games before it, it brought an excellent game to a larger audience and reaped the rewards. What made it stand out so much was the fact that it also came with a whole other, entirely new 3D Mario adventure. Bowser's Fury is shorter than a full-fledged new game, but it's packed full of excellent content and brimming with the sort of delightful creativity, relentless variety, and genre-defining level design that this series has always been known for. With two outstanding games in a single package, Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury is unmissable for anyone with a Switch.
And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from Gaming Bolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.